Lewis, obviously a very important couple of games coming up. How pleased were you first of all to get through the two games against Steny quite comfortably in the end?
Yeah, obviously we went up there, we started well, so which was nice. Obviously we missed a few chances off the bat and thought it wasn't going to be our day, but then some good finishes from Graz, and I think we applied ourselves well, and hopefully if we go up there and apply ourselves the same way, start with that kind of intensity, we can hopefully win the game.
You got to try yourself out at centre half and at left back, so you're a busy guy since you've joined Airdrie.
Yeah, obviously since I've been in I've really enjoyed it. I've played a few games at centre half and yeah, it's been good. Obviously it's a wee bit different getting on the ball, and then I think in the first game against Steny with Mason going off injured, I had to go back out to left back, but yeah, it's been good.
I guess if we look at the two games, it's the level of quality that we've got, the level of kind of intensity, especially the kind of first hour of that first leg. If we were to reproduce that against Cove Rangers tomorrow night, there's no reason we can't go and win that game as well. No,
100%. Obviously you look at that intensity, obviously that change of pace when we get into the final thirds is massive, and yeah, I'm sure if we got there, they might be a wee bit different to Steny when we went up and played them away from home the first game. They might be sitting in a 2 banks of 4, but hopefully what we've worked on we can kind of counter that and beat them, hopefully.
I suppose we've got to expect they'll be better than Stenhousemuir were as well. Not just they've finished above them in the table, of course, but also they've come through a semi-final of their own, so they're going to be full of confidence. What do you expect from Cove?
Yeah, I think Cove's going to be maybe a wee bit more difficult than Steny. I think they've got maybe that little bit more experience, and you can see that they've worked on their style of play, as in the 2 banks of 4, and obviously we'll go out tomorrow and try, as I said, counter that, and hopefully with what we've worked on we can, the intensity of going forward and these wee intricate pieces of play will beat them.
Do you think it makes a particular or significant difference that it's first leg up there, second leg here, or is that kind of more background?
Yeah, obviously with going up to Steny, we started with all that intensity, and as you've said, that if we go up there and we play like that, we'll hopefully come back with a lead, and coming into this game at home maybe a wee bit more comfortable as the Steny games went.
What sort of mood is there in the dressing room? Because you guys set such a high standard across those two games. You were very impressive for those 2 legs and finished the season having got ourselves into a position to take advantage of what happened to Hamilton, which wasn't easy to do. There was a long time where it looked like we wouldn't be able to pull that off. So the mood in there must be really, really high, and you have earned that mood.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously I was only in since Christmas, and I've spoke to the boys about what it was like before, and as the gaffer says, we would have bit anybody's hand off if we knew we were going to get at Christmas with the 6 or 5 points, whatever we had. You'd have bit anybody's hand off to be in this situation, to play these games and meaningful games. Hopefully we just apply ourselves for the next week, and then we've got our holidays to look forward to, but until then we need to focus on the games at hand.
It's something that I think was touched upon in the press as well before. You were part of the Morton team that stopped us coming up at this stage back in that bizarre COVID season. It feels a long time, but does that wee bit of experience in these kind of scenarios that you've got, that some of the other guys that got promoted with us have got, stand us in good stead? Yeah,
obviously we are a young team, and some of them might not experience these games, but the boys we've got in there are brilliant. We've got that bit of edge to us when we go into the final third. We can be a wee bit expressive. The gaffer lets us do that. You see sometimes we end up in the middle of the pitch. You see the rotations are good. So yeah, definitely going into these games with a wee bit of experience. I think it's not massive, but I'm happy with the team we've got. We're young, we've got experience in there, as much as you would say some of them aren't. It is there. Played games, people have won, as you said, get promoted with Airdrie or been in these games. So yeah, I'm sure we'll be fine.
And I guess there's a fine line between that confidence that we deserve to take into these games and that sense of complacency. I imagine you and a lot of the other players will be making sure that doesn't creep in.
Yeah, obviously, we've set standards now with that first game up at Stenhousemuir. With the intensity we had, we'll be looking for that again, and if it's not there, I'm sure we'll be told.
Brilliant. Lewis, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Rhys, obviously the squad are going to be in a really confident mood going into these playoff final games. What are you expecting from Cove?
Tough game. Obviously it's a final, so they'll be full of confidence as well, and obviously for us we've got to make sure that we approach the game with the same level of kind of professionalism, commitment and effort like we did in the semi.
There's been times in the season where going into games with confidence, with positivity, have probably been difficult. We can't kid anyone on, but they've earned a sense of optimism and a feel-good factor going into these games because the performances across the 2 legs against Steny were excellent.
I know they were, and like you said, I think from probably Christmas onwards, I think if you'd have said to the boys in the club and you put yourself in a position to be in a playoff final over 2 legs, to stay in the division, it would have been a real positive, something that we would have looked to have been kind of capitalise on. So the boys are aware of that, and like we say, we've got to make sure that we approach the game with the same level of commitment over the 2 legs and hopefully get the job done.
Got to back themselves that if they can hit those same kind of levels of performance, that level of intensity, particularly the Tuesday night game, the first leg, that they've got more than enough to make sure they get through these 2 games.
I know, listen, on our day, and like I said, when we perform and bring those elements to our play, then we're a good side. We know that, we've shown that, especially like I said, second part of the season. So as you say, the boys are full of confidence, and I think you've seen that probably in glimpses. We could have been a couple more up in the first leg, but the level of control and probably run out comfortable winners over the 2 legs. So like we say, we know what's kind of on the agenda, what we need to do, and we've got to make sure that we, first of all, preparation has been really good. Boys are excited, confident, all the kind of emotions that you would expect and probably anticipate going into a big game, and obviously leaning on kind of past experiences and stuff as well.
Cove, we've not come across them for a while, not since that season we were fighting out with them for League One, back when you were just the player rather than player manager. You miss those days, not having to do this after every match and before every match?
No, I remember it. I remember 5's goal kind of sinking our hearts, back in League One. Listen, they've got a lot of young players, but they've still got a few of the players that were there. Obviously I know kind of 5A, Mitch and Mikey Doyle and stuff who'd been there, who've played against before. So listen, they're on a confidence boost as well. They've just had a really good season. They've come through a difficult game in Queen in the South and managed to get the win there. So they'll be kind of confident going in to the final, and I think obviously doing their homework and stuff, it's a final for them, and likewise, and like I say, about 180 minutes to go and show over the 2 legs that we're good enough to stay here.
I suppose from their perspective, they'll look at it as an opportunity. They have got to expect that it'll be a tough game for them, tougher than Queen of the South, but by that same logic, we've got to expect them to be a better side than Stenhousemuir were, without being disrespectful to Stenny.
I think you've hit the nail on the head for both angles. I think from Cove's point of view, from our point of view, you've got to, I think you get complacent and you take your eye off the ball just ever so slightly, time can be kind of run out. So it's really important we approach the game, and like you said, we've done our homework, boys are fully aware and kind of prepped on what we need to do. It's just about there going out and executing now.
I suppose being first leg up there, very similar to how it was in the last round. We know that if we can bring something back here, it puts us in a great position. But what do you expect from Balmoral? I suppose artificial surface, which will probably help us.
I've played there before. It's a tough wee venue. Pitches obviously artificial. Not the worst pitch I've played on in terms of the Astro. I remember going up there before. It's been a wee while since I have though. Obviously smaller ground, but really nice in terms of when we've been there. Boys will enjoy it. I think for both teams try to get the ball down. They've got technically kind of gifted footballers, so it's certainly not going to be going to some of the pitches that we've played on this season, and it's kind of roll the sleeves up and make sure that your strip stays kind of clean and tidy. So and then, as you said, going up there, getting a kind of feel for it the first leg maybe gives you a wee bit of advantage. We certainly don't look at it that way. I see it as it's 180 minutes, regardless whether you're home first or away first. You're going to have to play them twice, and you're going to have to make sure you're on the ball.
How's the squad fitness levels? How's everybody ticking along?
Everybody's good. We obviously trained and done a wee bit of prep and stuff, so boys are fully prepped, ready to go. A couple of wee injuries, obviously Mason and stuff still obviously doubtful. Moving forward, again day by day, just to see how it kind of changes, but swelling's down in his ankle, but it's probably going to be one of the ones that he's missing. Apart from that, everyone else can come through it okay, everybody's ready to go.
What about Aidan?
Big Aidan's been back in training, so one that, listen, we can hope that he can try and get through it in terms of the training today and seeing how he reacts. And like you say, we'll try and give everybody, not just these two, we'll try and give everybody with kind of bumps and bruises. The best case, obviously, scenario is we'll try and maybe get some painkillers on, because as I say, there are 2 games left potentially in the season, so we've got to make sure that we try and give everybody the best opportunity that they can.
And I suppose given that we've been able to get multiple subs on in both of those previous ties, it wasn't having to go into extra time, and it wasn't having to keep as many people on from the start all the way through as possible. That helps give the squad just that extra bit of freshness going on.
I know, I think you've seen that even in the second game there. I felt that the game was, certainly the second half, we changed shape, and probably with a few personnel that we wouldn't do, but it, like you said, it was with a wee bit of thought in mind with the likes of the boys that came off, just making sure that you weren't doing that extra run that maybe tweaks a muscle, especially at this stage of the season. So as you said, really pleased, really positive that we managed to get the boys who played a lot of football this year off, give them that extra wee kind of barely rest, and then get some boys onto the pitch to get more minutes and sharpness and stuff. And over the 2 legs we were fortunate to be able to do so, but like I said, it didn't really have an effect, because certainly in the first leg and in the first half and stuff, the boys' application, even the boys that came on, really brought levels of intensity, quality to the game, and we'll be looking for the same.
And I suppose, you know, as a football supporter, you get greedy, you're watching your team, you know that they're capable of going on and maybe adding to the scoreline, you kind of want that. But if someone had done something, had pushed themselves that extra bit and picked up an injury that ruled them out from tomorrow night or Saturday, it just wouldn't have been worth it really for an extra couple of goals, would it?
No, listen, as much as from a neutral point of view, of course I've got standards, and I think I was very critical of the boys and actually come in and kind of apologise to them in terms of the way that we approached it. I thought when I watched the game back in real detail, sometimes you've got to hold your hands up and say fractionally saving the ball, or no being 6'6" rather than 6'2" and getting on the end of things, and that the positions and the areas and the performance levels was excellent, and it was a big area that I thought, you know what, I was maybe a wee bit kind of too hard on you at half time, but it was just because we demand standards, that's all. And I think the first half of the game was good, although Stenny's kind of game plan was slightly different, and then we dropped that probably standard just ever so slightly, 5% or so, but we've got to make sure that we're on it come tomorrow night, and then obviously Saturday as well, because we can't have any kind of passengers or anyone taking a wee dip in form.
Brilliant. Rhys, we will speak to you after the game on Wednesday.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.